Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Sam Lathouras. Sam is a fellow sales professional. He works as a BDM in the e-commerce space. He's been in a number of different industries, a number of different sales roles, so he's worn a few different hats. But I know he's a highly successful guy. And I'm sure he's got a bunch of wisdom to share with me today. I'm looking forward to having a chat and catching up. It's been a little while since we initially connected. So Sam, with that introduction, mate, how are you getting on? And welcome to the show.
No, thanks for having me, Joe. No, it's good, mate. And yeah, getting on well. So, at the moment, obviously, like you said, working at a sales role at Sourci as the BDM. So, Sourci is an e-commerce and supply chain partner for lots of scaling brands as well as some big brands as well. So, effectively, we kind of have our team here that will partner up with those larger brands that are producing things like apparel or skincare or cosmetics, and start running their supply chains. So it's
Cool.
an interesting role. It's pretty varied. A lot of different types of products, a lot of different people. But yeah, good little company.
Cool.
Actually, our co-founder just got on the Forbes 30 under 30 the other day, which we're all pretty stoked about. So they're growing really fast. So yeah, that's an exciting place.
Sounds great, mate. Nice one. So when we initially, I guess, connected, it was probably maybe 8 9 months ago,
Yeah.
towards the end-ish of last year. You were searching for a role at the time. You've now joined Source, so you gave me a bit of a flavour there. But how are you finding it? How are you getting on in the new role?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's a very young company, so it's very different than anything that I've experienced before, and it's something then that it has its pros and cons, obviously, but it's fun. It's very dynamic, and it feels like every little suggestion that you have gets taken so seriously that you're almost certain to have something implemented. So it's nice
Yeah.
to
Okay.
have that control, and I feel like it's been a really good fit.
Good man. So simply put, then, if we just go into a bit of detail, what are you actually selling for those guys, and how are you sort of helping your customers? Would you say?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, it's selling a service, really. So we're selling the service of having a supply chain partner. So people that sign on to Sourci will get dedicated a couple of staff members here that will go through and do things like negotiations with suppliers and quality control checking. And we have apparel and garment technicians here that create different apparel items for people and designers. So really we're selling that full end-to-end supply chain service where a customer that uses us only has to do their sales and marketing activity. They don't have to worry about the product itself. Now, my role is all around business development. So I have a couple of business development reps that go through and sell a couple of different packages. We have our Sourci course, for example, where Giovanni goes through and explains to people how to run this type of thing on their own if they are a little bit smaller to start using it. And for those bigger customers that we do want on board, well, then it's about selling them the dream of, stepping back and potentially, just letting lots of their products run themselves.
You mentioned some big customers, also some smaller guys. What is there, like a target that an
Yeah,
ideal customer for you guys?
there is. So typically we're looking for people that are going to spend $40,000 plus per order. So it ends
Yeah.
up being, it takes out lots of those startup e-commerce customers that are, I want to start an activewear range, but only want, 50 shorts and 50 t-shirts.
Okay.
It's more the people that are looking to get 2,000 shorts and 2,000 t-shirts. Now, we've also partnered with some people quite recently that have been great. So, we've got Adidas on board. We're producing a range of merchandise for them for the Women's World Cup, which was a great win and, decent sized order value and that kind of thing, which is amazing. So that they're really our key at the moment is trying to do some outbound sales strategies to get those customers on board and more reaching out to those larger companies that do have procurement offices that are then looking for a bit of an easy way to get product.
Gotcha. So you then, as a salesperson, say you've identified one of these customers, right, here's an ideal customer sort of profile. What's your sales process, would you say, from when that initial identification stage to
Yeah.
getting them on board? What does it look like? How do you do it?
Yeah, good question. Look, generally for Sourci, we're looking at two different types of customers, and it's going to be that established business versus what we are because we're a young company, quite interested in influencers and that kind of thing. So influencers that are starting their brand is generally, we have a large social media strategy and a very big social media marketing budget that we use to try to attract that type of person. Going outbound, a lot of it is in that Insta DMs, a lot of it is going to be in the networking side of things with some existing customers. So we try to get in front of as many people as possible just to have those initial conversations. And lots of it is from, hosting a party on the rooftop for these types of people, as opposed to it is for your Adidas, where we'll just be asking for that introduction meeting. And typically we've been quite successful in getting people inbounding, as opposed to having to outbound those larger companies lately. But in saying that as well, Giovanni and I have taken on a bit more of a classic strategy recently with those kind of mid to large size businesses by just rocking up. There's so much to be said at the moment for doing that old school, let's just go to their business and say hello and show that we actually have a presence. And lots of it is just locally. We're lucky enough to be based here in Cremorne. There's a lot of great businesses around here that are scaling, that are doing a couple $1 million a year in revenue, and that can really appreciate our services. So just been going back to basics a little bit, and it seems to be working, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people that's doing it right now.
Mate, that's really interesting. So you've literally been just knocking on doors. Well, not knocking on doors, but identifying a customer and then going to visit them unannounced.
100%, yeah. And right. We've actually been quite successful in doing it. It's been, we find that lots of these mid-sized businesses will still have the owner or founder working within it. Typically, then you're looking for their biggest outlet. So a lot of different menswear brands and that kind of thing around at the moment that do have 3 stores. And when you do have someone with 3 brick and mortar stores, and you have someone that is obviously buying a lot of merchandise. So rocking up, saying hello and seeing what kind of thing we can do for them while we're in front of them and getting that initial meeting by force has been working for us.
Yeah, love it. Does that take a bit of balls, I imagine, just knocking on a door? Because I did it once in my game, and it was I just got told to piss off a bunch of times, and I was like, never again. Mate, it sounds like you've got it going though. What are your secrets for knocking on doors?
Yeah, look, lots of it's in around making that customer feel special. Yeah, like we're coming to visit them because we are also large and we want to partner. Lots of it's going to be in that PR pack. So we have a pretty decent PR pack that we'll take to these customers and give them a bunch of free merchandise. As a bit of some of it's an example of what we can do and our capability, but the other bits are just around making that customer feel a little wanted. And typically you'll find that lots of these customers don't know who their supplier is. They're dealing with agencies overseas that might deal with another agency before you actually get to that key manufacturer. So some of it can be around that education piece of, okay, who is your supplier? And then a quick search can identify that, they're not a manufacturer at all. That's just an agency that happens to speak English that is taking a cut of your profits at the moment. Why don't you just instead have someone manage your supply chain and we'll take the same cut?
Yeah, nice. And do you think the reason you've had success doing that door knocking is partly because not many other people are doing it? Like people have kind of thought that's maybe a bit old school, but the competition, you're taking advantage of the competition not doing it, you think?
I think so. And because our service offering is something that's a little bit unusual as well, people are generally interested to hear of it. But yeah, I'd say, we've tried a little bit of everything. I've the BDR sending out thousands of outbound emails from data that's been scraped over the last couple of years, and it's just the click rate and the return rate from outbound emails just isn't there right now, and people's inboxes are flooded with these. Text messaging can be a little bit better, we've found, but even then, it's still just an unsolicited text message and someone goes, I'm not going to reply to that. Getting in front of the person, making a decent impression, and especially if I can bring along a couple of the staff here that have some really great experience across a bunch of different brands, really helps.
What about the old school phone?
Yeah, look, phone has been up and down for us. Lots of that comes from, because we are such a young team, we do have a bit of turnover at Sourci in our BDR space. Right. And I think, that's probably something for, something really close for yourself as well, where you probably see it a fair bit, where those kind of entry-level sales roles, it can be very make or break for people.
Yeah.
And phone sales is not easy. Like, I totally get that. And these guys are hammering 60, 70 calls a day just trying to get something. So, while, we have a couple of meetings that get generated from it, it's also a bit of a ruthless process for some of these guys if your head isn't in the right space for it.
Yeah, for sure. No, agreed. I was going to ask about the general sort of e-commerce space. It seems like that's a really great space to be in at the moment. Is that right? What's happening in the industry as someone who's very close to the ground on that front?
Yeah, it's it's interesting at the moment. I think with interest rates and that kind of thing, it has taken a little bit of a hit, and people are being a little bit more frugal with their money. But in saying that, they're also changing where they spend. So people aren't really going to brick and mortar stores as much as they used to. They're just simply shopping online. It's easier, and it can be more cost effective getting delivery than it is starting the car at the moment. So I think it's peaks and troughs. At the moment, it seems to be kicking along okay, but there's so many people that just want to start that brand, and it's what is your point of difference? What's your unique selling point? And we find that lots of these startups that are coming to us are just trying to kind of throw the net out and just hoping that someone will come and swim into it. And it's just it can be hard. Like, people need to have some solid business plans behind them. The ones that do are being really successful in that space.
Yeah, okay. And mate, it seems like you've really fallen on your feet and loving the business and the culture in the current role. Something you said earlier about any idea you had is very much taken seriously, and you don't feel afraid to sort of voice your opinions, which I think is great. Also, the founder seems to be super successful with that the 30 under 30 thing. What are the business getting right? What have they done culturally to make you feel welcome and to develop this excellent culture by the sound of things?
Yeah, I think lots of it comes down to just them. So we've got two co-founders, so Giovanni and Ellie. And they're both very invested in the business. They're both extremely happy to have a chat. And I mean, even when you look at our office, we've got Friday night drinks are an every Friday night thing where everybody does get involved and wants to be here. There's kegs set up. There's, it's that young environment that everyone's happy to be kicking around. If we go out and do something, well, then everybody does it as a team. And really, it's such a family culture around here. Look, when I first started, there were there was a little bit of a disparity between the sales team and that more product-based team, where sales would come and they would land a client, and then it just gets passed over, and it's like, make the impossible happen. Where now we've kind of changed that to more sales need to take accountability for making sure that is the right customer for this business, and it all will fall back onto the sales team if something goes wrong in that space, and it's up to us then to fix it. So adding different layers of accountability to each different business segment has really helped Sourci get to the point where everybody's accountable, but then everybody is very respectful of each other for the fact that we're all doing our job quite well. So I think that's really helped things, and it means that while, we work pretty hard, we also get along really well, because there's none of those random little business quabbles of someone saying, we should have never taken on that project, when the sales team says, no, it's great, it's netting us all this money, without realising all the intricacies and the hard bits that are associated with actually getting it across the line.
Yeah, I love that. Love the accountability and respect, the two words you mentioned there. Key to building any sort of culture and team environment, I think. Picking up on something you mentioned earlier as well, the social media side of things. You mentioned you're doing a lot in that space. As a salesperson, though, that tends to fall under maybe a marketing campaign, just generally speaking, those kind of activities. How involved are you in the social media side of things as a salesperson for Sourci?
It's quite good. We're all pretty inclusive as to how things are working. So lots of the time, so Clara is our marketing genius here, and she's just amazing at what she does in that space, and she really cares to make sure that are we actually getting the click rate that we need, and is it that right customer? So we'll catch up, and between Clara and Linus, the guy that analyzes all of our data, we will catch up weekly and just make sure that things are actually progressing in the way that we need them to. So it's about looking at those leads that we've had in, making sure that they are that right type of customer, and if they're not, what made them click on that link and what actually made them go through and make an inquiry with us. we find that sometimes we'll have people that are looking for building supplies and that kind of thing, which just isn't our domain. And it's then, okay, so how do we pivot and change that marketing strategy to make sure that we're getting the right customer? So they're very involved, and it's actually been a really nice... It's been a nice thing for me to be able to be involved in, because I can see then if I say, oh, you know what, like the leads haven't been great this week, what did we change? And then we can all chat about it and work out where it might have gone slightly wrong, and we're all open then to working out a solution.
Nice. Sounds very aligned. Like,
Yeah.
that's the key, I think, with sales and marketing. Often they tend to butt heads. You know, both, either one thinks they doing the more important work, or their idea is the best. It sounds like you've got it really good, where you're coming together and collaborating and making sure you're all pulling in the same direction, which is great to hear, mate. But I'd love to go back in time a little bit. We talked about the present. In your past, you've worked in a couple of sales roles in a few different industries, and you've obviously, your career's got a really great sort of natural progression to it, I feel. Looking back on your previous roles, I know you've been in the construction industry a little bit, the automotive industry. How do you reflect on those periods of time, those, let's say, training ground type sales roles? How do you reflect on those?
Look, they were big moments. Before sales, I was just in the public sector down in Tassie, just literally pushing paper. Like, it wasn't all that fun, but it was one of those things that was super safe. I met this dude at a wedding, and he was the GM at this major car dealership, and I kind of thought, oh, you know what, maybe it might be worth having a chat to him. And we did, and we really got along, and I ended up going for it and just starting there as a sales exec. So I was selling used cars, just out of a random spot in the suburbs of Hobart, and he taught me heaps around sales. He was very successful in it. He'd done it all of his life, and I was a bit of a sponge for it because I hadn't really done it before, and I think it really just enabled me to go, okay, cool, this does make sense. And each thing that he told me, when I did implement it, it seemed to work. So just around getting those commitments, making sure that you're going back to a customer with instead of saying, oh, what will you buy the car for? It's, if I can do the car for this, will you buy it? And just changing the types of ways that you speak to people. And it just led to some really quick successes, to the point where then I was performing really well in that role, and soon got then promoted into the senior sales exec role, and then into the sales manager role as the company grew quite quickly as well. So I had the benefit of a little bit of luck there, I think, in that the company did grow quite quickly. But in saying that as well, it was an opportunity then for me just to kind of sink my teeth into it and take it. And then obviously changing into working for Dulux there as I looked after Tasmania for all of their key accounts, and then got asked to instead look after Victoria and Tasmania for those key accounts. So making the move to Melbourne was a big call, but I did that, and I'm very glad I did, as now looking after Sourci here as business development manager is probably the highlight so far, and there's still ways to go in terms of growing that. So I think it's been great, and just being in those couple of businesses that were a little bit smaller that have kind of scaled, and also as well with Dulux, just kind of learning that bigger business environment and how they operate, and taking a couple of learnings from there as well.
Yeah, nice. And it sounds like when you did initially get that first role with the in the automotive industry, you very much fell into sales. That doesn't sound like it was your plan, right?
Yeah, not really. Look, I always loved cars, and to be honest, the perks drew me in. It was, you have whatever you want, the money, it's going to be good, and here you go. Did you want to give it a crack? And it was hard leaving that extremely safe, more admin-based role into something that had commission structures, and I was in charge of my own income, and realistically the hours were worse and that kind of thing. But it was probably the car industry was probably one of the best times that I've had, just in building friendships with a bunch of people that are also working as hard, that are also in control of their income, and it was one of the best paying as well as the most fun roles that I could have ever experienced. And then moving to Dulux, where it ended up having that layer of safety built back in, was quite good as well. It was probably a little bit too slow for what I became used to, and that's why now I've ended up here, which seems to be a really good mix of the two.
Yeah, perfect. It seems like, just from what I know of you, the success you've had, a lot of it is down to your mindset and the way you think and the way you approach stuff. I don't want to inflate your ego too much here, but and it's an opportunity for you to do that as well. But what would you say are some of the key things that you've done, maybe more mentally, the mindset stuff that has allowed you to have success throughout your sales career?
Yeah, I think, look, ego is probably a big part of that. Yeah, like the most successful salespeople, especially the ones that I've seen do really well around me, always do have an ego to them. And I don't think that it always has to be a bad thing to have a big ego. I think having that confidence and going in and knowing that the customer wants your product is what has kind of set me apart from lots of the other people that are begging the customer to take the product on. That realistically, you need to go into it and manifest that customer needs you for this. And I really don't see why anybody wouldn't. You just need to have belief in that everybody that has used you in the past for a service like Sourci has worked out. These people will as well. And, the amount of expertise that you can provide to these people is second to none. In the car industry, it was, someone's come in. If you can get them to test drive a car, well, then they're going to buy the car. It's a better car than what they had. It's like, if they've rocked up in something and they're test driving something new, it is going to drive better. So it's about them knowing that once they get out of the car, they've had a positive experience and they are in a better mindset about that car than what they were of their own one. So, I mean, it's just simple, and then it's just a numbers game. And the numbers, you can kind of make them look however you want them to make them look. You can give that customer that is extremely money conscious the weekly payment amount on finance, and it's going to sink in a bit better than saying, hey, you're up for a $45,000 changeover fee. So it's just about learning that customer and working out what their pain points are going to be. And then, you're not really manipulating anything. You're just giving the truth, but the type of truth that's going to make it settle in a little bit easier.
Yeah. That confidence and that self-belief that you seem to have, you just seem to back yourself, whatever you're going to do. It's like, right, I'm just going to go sell cars. I can do that, and then, I'm going to change to Dulux, working in the construction. I've never done it before, but I reckon I can do it. I'm going to move to Melbourne. Never been there before, but I can do it. And now you're working in, what you're doing now in the e-commerce space. Never done that before, but I can do it, and I back myself to do it. Where does that come from? You just relentlessly back yourself. I love it, but where do you think that comes from?
I think, I guess part of it is fake it till you make it, I guess, to be honest with you, Joe. Like, some of it, okay. I've gotten here and I went, I've got a steep learning curve here. But then you sell that first one and you go, that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And lots of it just comes down to, if you're a decent communicator and you can build relationships with people, then you can succeed in sales. And I think all the rest of it just comes down to the confidence then as to how successful you're going to be. Everybody can sell something here. Like, you're not going to sit here for 6 months and not sell a package. There'll be people that will just say, please sell me a package, and you send them something and they'll accept straight away. Take it, run with that momentum and just go, yeah, cool, I did that. Let's move on to the next one. I think that's where people get a little bit stuck when they haven't made a sale in 2 weeks. I know I used to in the car industry when we were going through some troughs, especially during COVID. It would be like, we're not making margin, or the yard is just dead. There's no one that's coming in to buy a car right now. It's just about going, you know what though, that next opportunity when they come in, they're probably the one. Like, why wouldn't they buy this car? There's no point saying, why would they buy this car? Why are they going to come in and buy this car from me? It's more, why wouldn't they? Because you're selling them something that they want. They've come in, they've inquired. Outbound leads, obviously a little bit different, but even then, once you've built up that relationship, and if they're invested in having a conversation with you, well then, why wouldn't they buy it from you? They've already invested their time, that you already know that they're going to be semi-interested. Just run with it.
Yeah, no, for sure, mate. How much of the success then, a lot of that is mindset, I believe. You're almost, as you say, manifesting that why wouldn't they buy it? Yeah. How much of that is that your mindset and that self-belief compared to, say, some of the tactical stuff you do? The sort of profiling customers, the negotiation, the other bits and pieces, the tactical side of things. What would you say, I guess your success is more mindset or more tactical, like a science or an art? What would you say the split is, do you think?
Yeah, good question. To be honest, I'm not even really sure. I think lots of it is going to come down to I think lots of it has to come down to mindset. And I don't know, maybe it's 70-30 mindset to art. I really think, though, that, I've seen people with terrible admin skill. I had one guy in the car industry that just older kind of guy, typical car salesman, little bit sleazy, a little bit snaky, and he would beat me every month. And I don't know how you're doing it. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know how anybody's ever trusted you, but because he was so confident that he was going to get that person into a car and then mess up their paperwork anyway, it's everything. And people keep on coming back to him, and the amount of referrals that this guy got from doing that for years on years on years was mental. So I think, mindset has to be the bigger one.
And you can put that in with work ethic as well, right? It sounds like that bloke just worked nuts off for a long time.
Definitely.
We touched upon the past, we touched upon the present. What about the future? What does the future hold? What can I expect from you, mate, in the next maybe couple of years?
Yeah, I really look. I want to really maybe take a bit more of an approach with marketing. I'd love to be a bit more involved in marketing. And I think for me, it feels like a bit of a natural progression to go from purely sales with a little bit of marketing help to having control of the sales and marketing teams and trying to make them work quite collaboratively, because I feel like it works here. And I think it's a massive opportunity for me to learn a bit more about that space. So realistically, I'd love to do a bit more study. I'd love to get into the marketing field a little bit more, and it really interests me. And then I think after that, it'll just be, trying to get the most out of some teams. I really enjoy the part of Sourci where I get to coach and teach these new people that come through. And we do have an amazing range of expertise here at the moment, and it's just great to be able to leverage other people into, investing in other people's futures. It's quite nice. Hopefully more coaching, more training, more new staff, and maybe some marketing stuff as well.
Yeah, so maybe a bit of leadership, roll out a leadership role for you down the track.
Yeah, definitely. It's where I want to be. Obviously I did it a little bit in the car industry. I did a little bit for Dulux, and it's just, it's nice having my BDRs here, but even then, it's just, it'd be great to have some more direct reports and just, I like that side of things.
And on a personal note, I know you're newish, let's say, to Melbourne, from your homeland of Tasmania. How are you finding life here in Melbourne?
It's really good. I went back down to Tassie over the weekend just to catch up with some family and that kind of thing, and it's crazy. You drive around down there and it takes 10 minutes to get anywhere, and over here it's 1k will take you 20. But then I find myself kind of missing it. It's so busy over here, but everybody is so committed to actually, getting in, having a crack, and just really making something happen. So the opportunity here is amazing. So I'm really enjoying it, and the people seem to be great as well. I've been lucky enough to make a few really close friends, and the types of places and the types of activities you can do every weekend. It's such a cool place. So really enjoy it.
No, I fully agree. What about growing up in Tasmania, mate? What was that like? Anyone who's listening and who may not know a whole heap about the island state down there, what was it like growing up there, mate? Tell us a bit more about Tassie.
Yeah, look, so Tassie's got a population of 500,000, in all of Tassie, and it's a big area. So compared to the 7 million, I think, that you have around Melbourne, it's different, and realistically, it's a great place to grow up, and it's also a great place, I feel, that if you were coming onto the end of your career, then you might want to head down. It's just those middle stages, there's not a heap.
Yeah.
So look, there's still career opportunity down there, but it's a bit more of a hustle, and there's it's not really as young and lively as what Melbourne and Sydney are.
Yeah.
But good place to grow up, and a lot of great mates, a lot of really good people, a lot of great places down there, and it's got so much natural beauty as well. So I'd really recommend it. It's just for work, I don't think it's the place for me.
Yeah, no. I've been down there a few times. I love it. Yeah, as you say, to visit, and see the natural beauty and do the hiking and all that. I love it, but as to live, I'm not sure about living there full time at our age. But is it quite common for for lads, say young people your age to leave Tasmania for work and sort of pursue their career?
100%. I think, look, I've got 4 or 5 mates that have done it already. I've got more that have thought about doing it, and not just Melbourne, but also Sydney, also anyone that wants to have a decent career in government ends up having to move into Canberra or similar. Anyone that wants to have a decent career in sales and do something a bit bigger has to move over to Melbourne or Sydney. So I guess, like it's, I feel like it is fairly commonplace, and I think most people at the moment, it used to be a bit of a theory that, you'd come over here and you'd spend 3 years and you'd go back. And I think that's starting to turn a little bit. I think people are getting cemented over here a bit more now, and it is such a nice place to live that there's no real reason to go back outside of family. So, I mean, if people haven't started their families as yet, if people, haven't decided to get hitched up and then have a kid down there, well, then I think that it makes it fairly common for people to move.
You think you've changed at all, or in any way since you moved, like personally?
Maybe, yeah. I think, look, I'm more patient on the road, but less patient everywhere else. So I think, everyone moves at a different pace over here, and people expect, in Tassie, you'd have an email would come through. People just expect it'll take a week to get back to them. Over here, if you don't reply to an email in 24 hours, and you get a follow-up email, and it's like, I don't know, people are so on it here, and people just want answers and want to move things forward, that it makes the sales side of things really exciting. It makes things a bit more fast-paced. So I'd say I have changed. I've probably changed from a career perspective in that, things have to move quicker here, and you have to be on the ball, and sometimes you have to, chuck in a couple of extra hours to get things done. And personally, I mean, now it's just nice to be able to have so many different options of things to do, and just I feel like life's a little bit more crazy and life has a bit more going on, but it's good.
It sounds like some real good development for you, mate. So all positive. I've got one final question for you. This is my typical closing question for the show. It's around the idea of success. So to yourself, Sam Lathouras, what does success mean to you? And you can take that personally, professionally, whichever way you like.
Yeah, look, I think success for me is all around. Right now, I'm feeling really successful in that I come to work and I feel quite happy to be here, and I've got a great group of people that I work with. And I guess success for me is feeling lucky in that this is where I am. So really, money comes and goes, especially in sales. And I feel like we change careers a fair bit in sales as well. But if I'm rocking up to a place that I feel happy to be in with people that I enjoy the company of, well, then I consider myself lucky, and then I consider myself successful for that.
Yeah, around being just grateful for what you have by the sound of this. I love that. Yeah, great answer, mate. And really great chatting to you today. Appreciate you sharing your journey and sharing a ton of great insights and tips to anyone who may be listening. Doing some really good stuff out there, mate. And thank you again for coming on and sharing that. Much appreciated. Sam, take it easy, mate.
Thanks, Joe. Cheers, mate.